Sukkot is the last holiday in the Torah. We have been going through Leviticus 23 on these holidays, and so we'll continue on with that. There's quite a bit of instruction on Sukkot. I'm going to go through the commands to start with. And then we'll get into the symbolism after that. Let's look at Leviticus 23, 34 through 36. Speak unto the sons of Israel, saying, the 15th day of the 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles. The word there in the Hebrew is Sukkot. In the singular, it is Sukkah. Sukkot is plural. And a sukkah is a temporary type of dwelling place. It can be a tent, it can be a lean-to, it can be, normally what they do in Israel today is they have these commercially made ones that are, they're kind of a little square building that puts up very easily, similar to a tent. The top is open so that you can put palm leaves on top of there. So it's the Feast of Tabernacles. Tabernacle is an Old English word for a tent or some kind of a temporary type of awning. So the 15th day of the 7th month shall be the Feast of Tabernacles for 7 days unto Yahuwah. So we see here that the holiday lasts for 7 days, right? That's what it says. On the first day shall be a set-apart convocation. You shall do no servile work therein. So there's a Shabbat on the first day of the holiday. And it requires a meeting. And we know that because as a Shabbat, that's what we're supposed to do. We're supposed to get with God, and it's not just you as an individual getting with God, it is God's people getting with God, meaning that it is a collective type of thing where you get together. Okay, so the whole point of Shabbat is talking about gathering God's people together. And that's what this holiday is particularly about, gathering God's people together so that we can, as a people, live with God forever. Okay? Verse 36, 7 days you shall cause to come near a fire response unto Yahuwah. So there is sacrifices that are involved, and those sacrifices are described in Numbers 29, verses 12 through 40. Then it says, on the 8th day shall be a set-apart convocation unto you, and you shall cause to come near a fire response unto Yahuwah. It is a confined assembly, and you shall do no servile work therein. So, it's a 7-day holiday, and the first day is a Shabbat, and the 8th day is a Shabbat. In other words, this is a 7-day holiday that lasts for 8 days. Now, that is a very strange way of saying that, right? So, there's got to be a reason for that, and there is, and we'll get into that later on. Okay, so we see we have a Shabbat on the 15th of the month, which is the first day of the month, and on the 8th day of the holiday. There are specific sacrifices that are involved in it. I'm going to skip over those since we don't have a temple to do those. And there's supposed to be a confined assembly on the 8th day. This is like an all-night prayer meeting type of thing is what this is describing. And a set-apart convocation, i.e. a time of worship on the first day and the 8th day. Okay, let's go into the next part of the command. The next part of the command is that you're supposed to dwell in booths. And I've got all of this information on Yeshua's Path, Volume 3, for you to look up the verses and so forth. Leviticus 23, we're in the same chapter, verses 42 through 43. You shall dwell in booths 7 days. All that are Israelites born shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the sons of Israel to dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am Yahuwah, your Elohim. So this is where it says that dwelling in booths is designed to remind us of the time in the desert when Israel lived in temporary buildings because they were traveling around. Okay, and so it tells us to dwell in booths. Now there are different definitions of the word dwell for this command. Some say you're supposed to eat meals out there. Some say you're supposed to sleep out there. Okay. Now this says it says specifically that this is to be done in Jerusalem. This is in Exodus 23 verses 14 through 17. 3 times you shall keep a feast unto me in the year. Now we know that there are 6 holidays, but only 3 of them are you required to go to Jerusalem for. You shall keep the feast of unleavened bread. You shall eat unleavened bread 7 days as I command you in the time appointed in the month of Aviv. That's back in the spring. For in it you came out from Egypt, and none shall appear before the face of me empty. So this is talking about the tithe. We take the tithe to Jerusalem, and we eat it there. Okay, portion of it is going to go to the Levites, but most of it we're going to eat ourselves as a part of this holiday. And the feast of harvest, the first fruits of your labor which you have sown in the field. That's talking about Pentecost or Shavuot, okay, which is 50 days later. Also in the spring. And the feast of ingathering, which is in the end of your year, when you have gathered in your labors, in the labors of your field. 3 times in the year, all your males shall appear toward the face of Yahuwah or Adonai. Okay, so this feast of ingathering, what is that? Well, we get an answer to that in Leviticus 23:39. Leviticus 23:39 says, also on the 15th day of the 7th month. That's talking about the Sukkot, right? When you have gathered in the fruit of your land, or the produce of your land. So there it says it. The gathering of your produce, the ingathering, is the same as Sukkot. So we're supposed to do Sukkot in Jerusalem. Okay, so which is a real problem for us in the diaspora. In other words, outside of the land of Israel. How can we do that? Very difficult, right? So it is not required. You will also note that in Leviticus 23:42, which we just read, it says that this holiday is for the Israelites born. So if you weren't born an Israelite, okay, if you started out as a Gentile, this holiday is not required for you. Well, it's a fun holiday, so it's not a matter of being required. We want to do it, right? Um, but it's not required of us. Why? Because we're not in the land, and not being in the land causes certain problems, which we may or may not be able to overcome. One of the big problems is getting to Jerusalem on this holiday. Obviously, very few of us can do that. So that is not required of us. Dwelling in booths, all of this stuff is not particularly required of us, but we're going to do as much of it as we can. Okay, I am going to stop there because of time, and we will get into some of the other commands on the next video. So we've seen when this is, the 7 days and the 8th day. We've seen that we're supposed to do this in Jerusalem. Okay, and we've also seen that this is reminding us of the time in the desert when we dwelled in temporary buildings. Sukkot is the plural word, and sukkah is the singular word. So when you point to the sukkah that we're going to be dwelling in, that's a singular, but the holiday is called Sukkot because it's tabernacles. It's plural. Okay?